Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
Welcome to the Think Big with Dan and Qasim today. Our guest is Pete Ryan. How are you doing, Pete Ryan, today?
Yeah, great. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. So can you let us know where you live and what you do?
Yeah, so I live in Austin, Texas, and I am the co-founder and co-CEO at a company called HiFive.
My co-founder, Dan, is also in Austin, Texas. So we'll try to meet up somewhere.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Awesome. So Pete, can you please let me know what are your core responsibilities in your organization? Because founders may have a lot of responsibilities. That's why.
Yeah, of course. So, my focus is a lot of things, right? And so, my day is like really broken up across sales, marketing, product, fundraising, operations. We're a small and lean team. And so, I'm based in Austin, Texas. My co-founder, Brendan Cassidy, is based in San Francisco. And, if you look at our backgrounds, right, like we're both ex-sales leaders turned founder. My core strength is certainly sales. Over the last 4.5 years since I've been working on HiFive, had to kind of wear so many different hats. So some of those hats being like uncomfortable because they're new. Certainly that's just all part of the journey.
Yeah, that completely makes sense. So in terms of spreading the words about your business, the best way is to do the marketing. And that's why marketing is important for every business, almost every business.
Mm-hmm.
So how you are doing the marketing of your business, because you are handling the sales as well, and sales are directly connected with the marketing. So how you do the marketing, like you rely on digital marketing or offline marketing, or you're doing both?
Yeah, so we certainly use our own product, right? So we're constantly drinking our own champagne using HiFive. And basically what HiFive is, it's think of it as like a mini LinkedIn for any company that's looking to build a network of people that could potentially introduce them to customers or buyers. And so companies will kind of use HiFive to operationalize introductions and referrals. And an introduction and referral, it could come from our premium connector network. So we have over 500 people on our own network that are super well connected. Kind of like, I don't know if any of these names ring a bell, but like the Scott Leases, Colin Cadmus, my co-founder, Brendan Cassidy of the world. And then also companies will kind of pull in their own investors, advisors, customers, partners into their own kind of mini LinkedIn, where then they can expose kind of where relationships exist in target accounts, and then request introductions to those buyers and customers. And then the benefit, right, of being a connector on HiFive is that you'll earn money, right? So you'll earn money for each introduction, and then you'll earn a rev share if the deal closes. And so that was actually a learning for us like early on, which is if you try to certainly do this on your own, whether it be LinkedIn or even we had another version of HiFive where we didn't do the payouts, it simply doesn't scale because there needs to be a win-win for every connector in order for them to like continue to help making introductions. And so that's our primary channel. Aside from that, right, LinkedIn has been a great channel for us. So we constantly have our premium connectors that a Scott Lease, right, he has, 120,000 followers on LinkedIn, or Colin Cadmus, right, with 100,000 followers on LinkedIn. So they're constantly posting about HiFive. And so we're getting inbound that way. And then because our product kind of has these inherent network effects built into it, where each company is inviting more and more connectors, one connector could be helping multiple companies, right? And so, it's really been those three things: drinking your own champagne with HiFive, LinkedIn content, and then, in parallel to that, kind of the network effects that we already have built into our product. And so we do also do events from time to time. And so it feels like the channels that are working these days for most marketers are events, right? Which, hopefully you can go to a bunch of those every year, introductions and referrals. And then last is LinkedIn. The days of kind of spraying and praying with a bunch of emails, cold emails and making cold calls, even like sending cold email, it's been seeing diminishing returns really the last 5 years. We've been kind of expecting this for some time, right? Just like there's been channel fatigue, and also a lot like you throw AI on top of that, right? It becomes this like massive problem, right? Because automation is one thing, but throwing AI just it's the jump from like a Honda Civic to a Ferrari. That's a massive jump in like automation. And so we expect those channels to continue to see diminishing returns, thus making introductions and referrals becoming that much more valuable.
Since that's awesome. So in terms of defining the goals of your company, because this is something that is on the founders of the company to set the goals of the company. So how you think about what is your thought process whenever you are planning the short term or the long term goals for your company?
Yeah. So really we start with like outcomes in mind first, right? And so whether it's like revenue outcomes or building new features in our product or, driving more top of funnel through building network effects into our product or generating like more MQLs or SQLs, like that's really where we start. And then really from there, we just kind of back into the KPIs that are going to help us achieve those goals. And, this all kind of stems from like our operating model. So, it took us a few years to like fully grasp for the importance of having an operating model, right? To understand like the inflows and outflows of cash, kind of like where we're going to invest in most, and then doubling down on the channels that are most effective for us. And, I would say these days, like if it's outbound, we're using HiFive because it's certainly the most cost effective with our CAC to LTV ratio. And then in parallel to that, we're doing kind of some of the LinkedIn like brand building and influencer marketing. And so that for us, like that's been the most effective. And so, every quarter we'll kind of sit down, look at, okay, were we able to drive towards these outcomes? And then back into, okay, like if we missed in one area, like what bottleneck was created that miss, right?
Yeah.
And again, it all stems from the operating model.
Yeah, makes sense. So Pete, just for my understanding, who are your ideal clients? Because this is another thing for any business that if the business knows their right clients, they must be in a right direction. So how you define your clients and who are your clients?
Yeah, so our clients are really like seed to Series B funded companies. And we have some outliers, right, that are much bigger, but that's kind of been our focus to date. It's just like, faster sales cycles and biggest pain point for those types of clients because, top of funnel is a massive problem. So like within like seed to Series C funded companies, our sweet spot really has been where our premium network is strongest, which is typically, companies that are selling into like the chief revenue officer or the chief marketing officer, or sometimes even like startup CEOs. And so, yeah, that's been our focus. And the goal actually for this upcoming quarter, which our quarter end is end of May for Q2, is really going up market, right? Because we feel like we have a product that can now support that.
Awesome. So how you onboard the clients? Like what's the process of onboarding your clients? If someone wants to be your client, what is the eligibility criteria and what steps you follow to onboard?
Yeah, there's two different types of clients. One is on our kind of self-serve model. And then if they want to create a group, right, we charge a dollar amount subscription for that. And then another type of client is really like our premium connector client, which is a company that wants to tap into our network of premium connectors. And so, anyone can sign up on HiFive and start building their own network and connecting with people either on the platform or outside the platform. And then if they want to create a group, they speak with us in sales and we actually help them set up the group. And then this is where they would invite their own investors, advisors, customers, partners, etc. into that group, where then they would see, okay, these are the networks of all those people and start requesting intros to those people. And so that's kind of, again, like build your own network, create your own group model. And then if it's, say, like a company that's selling into CROs or CMOs or CEOs at the seed to Series C funded, B funded companies, they would speak with us. We would basically create a pitch for their company, set the terms. So for instance, if they're saying, yeah, we're willing to pay, $250 per intro. And if a deal closes, we'll give out 10% of the rev share on the deal. We'll then package that up. We'll send out like the bat signal to all of our connectors. And then the connectors that can work with that company will then join their group. And so, typically it's like between 20 and 50 premium connectors that will start working with them. And then really there's normally like one person in the company that manages HiFive that, it could be like the CEO if it's a smaller startup or the CRO or CMO. And then, every week, right, they'll add like a list of target accounts that they're trying to get into, say like 20 or 30 target accounts. A text and an email will be sent out to all of the connectors in the group. And then it'll say, hey, XYZ company is trying to get into these accounts. Can you help? And then they'll go ahead and offer intros. And then we basically say, carve out an hour a week just to go in and then be proactive and request intros into those connectors networks. And that's really all it takes, right? And so our whole goal with our customers is, can we generate between 10 and 20% of your top line leads, right? And also increase your win rate by influencing existing deals in the pipeline. And so it's a limited, commitment, and it's a sure better investment. It's a better investment than like hiring an SDR, sales development rep, that may work, right, 50% of the time or less, right, these days. And so, yeah, it's really, you're able to work with basically the SEAL Team 6 of sellers that have all these relationships that can open doors for you where they wouldn't, otherwise be open. And so, we as a company, right, have been able to open up a ton of awesome doors for ourselves, right, to very prominent, larger company CEOs that we would have never been able to reach via a cold call or email or InMail or anything of the like. And so, yeah, it's really a proprietary demand gen channel that I would say not a lot of companies are doing today. But I think as more companies see the light and see the benefits of it, they'll unlock this as a new channel.
Awesome. So in terms of challenges, every company faces challenges. Every entrepreneur faces challenges. So I'm sure you must have faced challenges. So that's why I'm not going to ask, have you ever faced any challenge? Can you share one with us that you think is more interesting? Can you please tell us the...
Yeah, cool. Yeah. So over the last, I would say, well, just to take a step back, we have chosen to solve a problem that is essentially creating a new market, right? We're creating a new market. And then in parallel, just zooming out, I would say the problem we chose to solve is a 9.5 out of 10 in difficulty, right? Because there's a lot of moving parts. And then you have connectors, right? That, everything hinges on the connector, right? And so over the last 4.5 years, we've thrown a lot of development at trying to solve this problem. And so, we went through a few different iterations of the product. So we built a Chrome extension that sat on top of LinkedIn to help sellers request introductions in a much easier way. We've built a Slack app that basically would listen into a Slack channel for introductions that would happen. And then we would do payouts through Stripe Connect. And then, really a couple other versions, right? Where we've kind of just thrown stuff at the wall. And so I would say for us, we've always had idea market fit, right? Where conceptually, right, we'll go to a customer and say, hey, we think we can help you do this. Let's roll this out for you. I would say really fine tuning that product market fit. That's really been our key challenge. And so with this new iteration of the product, it's all those learnings that we've accumulated over the last couple of years, and to build the product that is essentially avoiding all of the things that you just don't want to do. And so for instance, initially, right, we would say, hey, invite all of your connectors in. For each connector, right, we'll have a Chrome extension that will then suck in their LinkedIn connections and bring those into HiFive. Except, learning for us is if I'm requesting an intro to someone that might be a LinkedIn connection of someone, that doesn't mean they know them, right? For instance, I have 18,000 connections on LinkedIn, but I probably only know 250 of them. It's the people that will attend my wedding or funeral. Hopefully my funeral is not anytime soon. So the hit rate with intros would be really low. We also tried why don't you just add all these people into your network that are connectors, and, they're just going to help you because there might be an advisor or an investor. And that's just not enough. Paying them is a really big deal. And I remember working at LinkedIn. My co-founder was also at LinkedIn. And, Reid Hoffman, right, great CEO, he would always say, there has to be a win-win for everyone in the network. And that's really why they focused in on hiring and marketing. Obviously they've built Sales Navigator, and it's a great product. I would say it hasn't lived up to its full potential. And that's kind of why we're building HiFive, because it ultimately doesn't really solve the problem. It's more of an alternative to email, which is less noisy. But we all know now LinkedIn InMail is just as noisy, if not noisier. Those two things, right? Where are you building the network, right? And so now to fix that, we just pull in someone's Google Calendar contacts, so people that they've met with, and then we can rank that by recency and frequency. And so, for instance, you and I, we had this conversation, we had this meeting scheduled. If someone asked for an intro to you, it's a much warmer intro than a random LinkedIn connection. So we've seen a much higher conversion rate that way. And also the payout. And so if someone's getting paid to take an action, there's that incentive to do it. And then, aside from that, the ability for connectors don't want to be solicited for intros all the time. And so we built this way for them, companies and connectors, to collaborate on intros. and then for connectors to offer intros into target accounts where they can help, and they can do it on their terms, right? And so connectors are busy. A lot of them have a full-time job. They might be consulting for a few different companies, and they're looking at this as like supplemental income. And so, allowing for them to help on their own terms is a really big deal. And so, yeah, I think just like zooming out, it's been idea market fit, right? We've always had product market fit has been difficult. With our new product, we've solved a lot. Those pieces, by looking at the data, understanding like what's working, what's not, to build something that is highly effective for companies that are doing it. And so, yeah, I think like getting stuck though in a loop where you're just like, you throw something out there and you're leaning into it, and then like rehabbing to build a product is not easy. And I would say though, like we've gotten really lucky in the sense that, now our engineering will use AI tools, right? Windsurf and Cursor, and they're able to build a lot faster, right? So we're just able to learn a lot faster. And I think, that's really like been a huge unlock for us. And so it's been a big deal because we're able to ship a lot more product faster, test things, iterate quickly. And so there's going to be a whole new wave of startups, right? That are doing just that. So
awesome. Well, this HiFive is an incredible thing for sure. And I will be going to try this for sure.
You should. Yeah.
So other than that, I really enjoyed the conversation. At the end, can you please give the biggest piece of advice to other entrepreneurs?
Yeah. I mean, there's a song by 311, All Mixed Up. There's lyrics in it that I love, right? It's just all about trusting your instinct. I think in your gut as a founder, like, your gut, right? And when you're all twisted up about something. And so, I found that like prayer and meditation in the morning really help just center myself and kind of go into the day with like a much clearer mind where, I'm not making decisions based on emotion. It's more based on gut. And so, yeah, I'd say that's been a big unlock for me, listening to the gut and surfacing that through prayer and meditation in the morning. And then I think the other thing too, it's like as a founder, a lot of founders, right, they've kind of jumped into the game in like a self-serving way. There's something there that they're striving for, whether it be like money or fame or whatever. But I think where I've gotten the most joy is when I go into a call with someone, prospect or customer or investor or what have you, and just been there to support them, right? I think the more people you help, the more people, it's like this karmic thing that happens where the more people you're supporting, just the more joy you get out of doing a startup, because every day it's like eating broken glass if you want it to be that way. And so just getting some joy out of your day-to-day is a really big deal. So I would say those two things have been helped me a lot as a founder.
Makes sense. So at the end, can you please let our viewers know how they can reach you if they want to reach you? You can share your website or social media handle, whatever you want to share.
Yeah, for sure. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Pete Ryan, HiFive on LinkedIn. Certainly, if you want to join HiFive, and actually, by default, you're going to connect with me on HiFive. I'm like Tom from MySpace. If you remember Tom from MySpace, he was just like connected with everyone. And so, yeah, those are really the two ways that you can contact me or reach me.
Awesome. Well, Pete, it was really my pleasure to have a conversation with you. I really enjoyed it, and hopefully we will stay in touch. And thanks for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Qasim.